So, hello everybody out there as part of our extended family. We are on our second week of Mindlift, and that is our book of the semester. And we've started our studies with studying the amazing miracle of our brains. And last week we talked about, what three parts of our brain did we talk about last week? The reptilian is the most inner part, which is, autonomic nervous system. It's our instincts, it's fight or flight, all that kind of good stuff. And then what was the other, the outer side of that then? The mammalian brain? You guys rely on Tamara. There's all the answers. Yeah, and that one I love to talk about is being, as Casper refers to as a medicine cabinet. So that one kind of works with the reptilian brain to say, hey, if you're in a survival situation, like you're swerving your car to miss something or whatever, it lets out adrenaline. And when you love somebody and you're hugging them, you're so happy to be with them, you have your dopamine. And you know, when you're healthy and doing well, it releases melatonin, so we sleep well at night when we're in sync with the seasons and stuff. So all of that is a function of the brain. The chemicals that are set. And we were also saying that a lot of the drugs that we take to make us happy, to bring us a little bit down, or to help us sleep at night, all of that is mimicking or trying to replicate our own medicine cabinet, like our own chemicals. So very important function of the brain, that's firing off correctly and doing what it needs to do. And then what was the other part that Casper talked about? That's the neurobrain, the neocortex. So and I really want you guys to know that, because this semester is going to be really digging into the brain. And then of course we're yogis, and so the mind is what we're studying. So the neocortex is sort of the newer brain, and what's the function of that? Emotions. Yeah, say that a little louder. Emotions. What else? Anybody else? The manager. It is the intellect. I'm reading it from Casper's now. The imagination, the reasoning. So in that sense, it's like a manager, you know. And then what about the frontal lobe? Did you guys watch the TED Talk from last week? Jill Taylor. What's it called? Stroke of Insight. So good. I really hope you guys watch it this week. It's one of my favorite. I promise you, it will inspire you if you haven't already. She was a neuroscientist who had the stroke and kind of goes through the right side and the left side of the brain. But the frontal lobe is what? Yeah, it's the filtering. It's the attention, the inhibition, the planning part of the brain as well. So all those things, understanding a little bit that's how we basically do everything. So in our lives, if we think of how we talk about our body as an avatar, how I ignite every single part of my being, the autonomic nervous system that's pumping my heart and blinking my eyes and sending blood through my veins, but also my intention that I'm going to do chaturanga today with intention and hold my body, my skeletal frame, my muscles. And when I'm going to think, I'm going to memorize the Ashtanga system. I know what's next. And when I think I have an emotion like, oh, I'm so glad to be here with all of you and I love all of you so much. All of this is a function of the brain. You know, our ability to have beautiful memories of things and to also dream of things in the future. All of that is a function of the brain. But I feel like it's the neglected muscle, right? It's a thing that we just take for granted because it serves us in every single second, eon of a second of our life, and we just take it a little bit for granted. So last week I said, don't take the brain for granted. Say thank you to your brain and be grateful for your brain. So last week we did the meditation on the brain and held our fingers to our forehead. And also, as yogis understanding, and we're going to study this more with Casper, is that the mind influences the brain. And that's the game changer for us. So a little bit this week, so as we move forward into this, we studied in the next part of the chapter how we are living in a time that's so amazing because we have so much available to us through the internet, right? It used to be, I was joking around saying, I used to have these things called encyclopedias. Did anyone else have any of those? Ray, I know you had some encyclopedias.
What's that?
Do you own a set of encyclopedias?
No.
What? Scott, did you used to own encyclopedias?
Yes, I have now.
Yeah.
That's what the internet's for.
What we're saying is we used to. So this was before the internet. We had dictionaries and we had encyclopedias and we had all of that. You had a nice set going on. So, and then all of a sudden the internet came along and we no longer needed the encyclopedias, the dictionaries, and now even even for something like yoga, when I prepare my teachings for you guys, it's amazing what I can find and what I can tell you based on what I can just Google search and everything. We live in an amazing time. The devices we have, it used to be like sci-fi. Remember you'd see I guess this is all dating me, but it used to be back when we watched those old sci-fi movies where they could see someone on the screen and call someone and talk to them, whatever, and now it's our reality. Anywhere. I can call Casper today and say, hey, we're enjoying your book here over in the Netherlands, and have a great conversation with him, just like that, and it'll seem like he's in the same room. So we live in an amazing time. But in that, as we study the brain, we realize our brain is being challenged by all it's exposed to, and how much can we really take in at once, right? You ever see a group of teenagers that rather than sitting around talking to each other, they're all on their little things, so we live in a time where it can be very distracting, for us to be multitasking and doing this kind of stuff. So this week is all about consumption. So I want you guys to think of an old teaching that we did on prana. Remember we were studying Carolyn Meese and we talked about energy. Prana is something that either nourishes us. We take in things that nourish our soul through energy, which would be, we described it as the organic, locally grown peach. Remember that teaching? Or we do things energetically that don't serve us, that deplete our energy, or that kind of make our energy a little haywire, and we refer to those as, what do we refer to those as? You guys remember?
Doritos.
The Doritos, right? So crappy food we feed ourselves that does not nourish us would be the Dorito. So Dorito thoughts, Dorito things we do. And so I want you guys to think of that same teaching, but with your brain this week. So your brain is always being fed something, We're constantly having information come towards us, and the decisions we make on how we do that. I want you guys to think of that again as the decisions you make on what you feed your brain is kind of like it being a muscle. How do you take care of your muscles? Well, you come to yoga and you do chaturangas, and you keep your physical body, your frame nice and healthy. What do we do to keep our muscle brain healthy, our mind healthy? This is just something I want to, I'm always my little hypnosis of you guys. I want rolling around your brain this morning. What do you do that feeds your brain good thoughts and makes it strong and beautiful and healthy and vital and energized and inspired? It's the same as energy. So I was thinking about that this week and thinking just something as simple as a TV. All that we have available to us on our computers and on our TV. And what choices do we make during the day? Are you, as Casper was saying, kind of a slave to it, where every 5 minutes you're checking your email? Or do you let that go a little bit? Or do you kind of sift through what you consume through the internet? Are you careful about the choices you make to what news you're going to watch, or what? Now our computers, I have mine so it doesn't do this anymore, but it used to be automatically my computer would fire up in the morning and it would flash the latest news of the day, and sometimes I don't want to start my day that way. Of knowing the latest whatever was going on. So it's a very simple thing, the smallest little thing. One day I made a decision that's not how I want to start my day, or when I go on to that. I would rather open up and see all the list of emails and see that Nemo sent me an email and know that's going to be a nice, loving email, and choose to read that first. That's just a decision for my brain. It's how I want to feed it, and I would say that is an organic peach, as opposed to starting with being bombarded with news. Could definitely be Doritos for us, right? Especially if we overconsumption of that too, when it becomes then our mind is doing that. So what we're learning about the brain being a muscle and the mind feeding the brain is these things called neural pathways, right? So I walk my dogs up in the hills, and it's actually a deer trail. And so there's branches and all kinds of things on it, but we walk it every day, and our, 10 feet have created a better trail. You know, that we keep walking it, and every time we walk it, every year we walk it, it gets like more cleared out for us to walk our trail. But our brains are constantly doing the same thing. So if I make choices to choose to read an email from Nimu that's loving, to make a conversation with Allie that's loving, to read a book that Kathy just got me by Bishop Tutu and the Dalai Lama on joy, if that's what I choose to feed myself this afternoon, that neural pathway for happiness and love, it gets stronger and it gets stronger. But if I make bad Dorito decisions where I'm like watching the news too much, I'm going to call this person because I have to, but they always like bum me out, right? That creates neural pathways too. You know, we begin to like have less energy and kind of be grumpy. And I always tell myself, if I am like grumpy, I have to like back up and figure out what's going on in my life, you know, because it just doesn't, grumpy for me doesn't happen just autopilot. You know, there's always something feeding that, you know. So this week I just want you guys to think of our Doritos again and our peaches. And think of it in conjunction with your brain, and your brain being a muscle, something that you feed every day. And just the way you make choices to come to your yoga practice, you shift out your schedule. It's not always easy. I know you guys have busy lives to get here because you know it feeds you. It is your peach. What other decisions are you making in your life to create neural pathways to make your brain so healthy and so happy and so vibrant? Samastitihi. We have a quote though. Kimmy, we have a great quote. Could you grab the quote for me? I hope it's still up there. We didn't run it. It's Lao Tzu. We still got it? Mary must have made copies. For our extended community, thank you. It's like the Oscars. But Scott told me they gave him the wrong, because I don't watch the news, so Scott had to tell me that. So our quote for this week is by Lao Tzu. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. And watch your habits, because they become character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny.